Black people have always had to carve out our own niches within media spaces. TV stations like BET and TV One, as well as radio stations like Hot 97 and 97.9 The Box, have become integral parts of our lives. Now we are making space in a newer media industry, and that industry is called podcasting. Within this presentation, we will discuss how Black voices have gained a foothold within the podcasting industry within the last decade. I present This Decade in Blackness. For those who aren't familiar with what a podcast is, it is an audio program that is a series of spoken word episodes focused on a specific topic or topics that can be downloaded on or listened to on internet accessible devices. The term podcasting actually comes from a portmanteau of the word iPod and the term broadcasting. The invention of the podcast. Dave Weiner, a software developer, created a new functionality that allowed audio files to be added to internet feeds in 2001. Adam Curry, a former MTV VJ, used this functionality for his popular feed iPod X in 2004, and thus the podcast as we know it was born. This brand new medium will gain a foothold within tech communities with workers and consumers. The popularity of podcasting within the tech community did not actually translate to wider consumer. As a matter of fact, only 22% of consumers knew what a podcast was in 2006. And unfortunately, the primarily white and male demographics of the tech industry affected the demographics of creators and listeners at that time as well. As you can see by this graph, even by 2008, not much had changed. People of color made up only 23% of podcast listeners, and out of that 23%, Black people made up only 7%. Now, by the end of the last decade, those demographics had shifted. People of color made up 37% of podcast listeners in 2018, and 12% of those were Black listeners. That's an increase of 5%. Now, what changed in 10 years? I would say awareness, accessibility, and representation. Awareness, and that more everyday people know about the medium of podcasting. Accessibility, and that internet-ready devices have become more common and readily available than ever. And finally, and most importantly, representation. Not only has making and distributing content become easier for people of color want content from creators that look like them. As you can see, looking at this table, it shows the explosion of podcast listeners last decade. Within a 5-year period from 2014 to 2019, the audience for podcasts more than doubled. So not only have we had demographic shifts, we have a bigger overall audience listening to podcasts. Some popular Black created podcasts are pop culture focused pods like The Read, who receives 1.5 million listens a month, and smaller ones like Tea in the Shade. Hip-hop podcasts like Drink Champs, Taxstone, and Spotify's #1 podcast of 2019, the Joe Budden Podcast. We also have lifestyle podcasts like Getting Grown and Mixed Vixen, as well as mental health audio like Therapy for Black Girls. Comedy podcasts like JNXD and Neck of the Woods have been tickling listeners for years now. As you can see, Black-led podcasts cover a wide range of topics such as Black women's issues, true crime, movie and TV news, social justice and politics, or just friends and family having fun on the mic. The popularity of Black-led podcasts gave way to full-blown podcast networks owned by Black creators. A podcast network is several podcasts connected by a similar genre, theme, partnership, or ownership, similar to a television network before our ears. One such trailblazer in this arena was Reggie Combat Jack Ossie, a former entertainment lawyer to artists like Jay-Z and P. Diddy, who transitioned into podcasting in the late 2000s. The popularity of his hip-hop interview podcast, The Combat Jack Show, led to the creation of the Loudspeakers Network, which houses hit shows like The Read and Brilliant Idiots today. Rest in peace to him, and his legacy will forever be felt within the podcasting arena. Another important podcast network from the 2010s was TWIP FM, created by writer-comedian Elon James White. TWIP, or This Week in Blackness, focused on giving daily news updates on social and political issues affecting the Black community, and gained prominence for its on-the-ground reporting of the Ferguson Uprising in 2014, as well as the continuous reporting of the Black Lives Matter movement. At this point, there are even podcast directories focused on pods hosted by people of color. One such website, podcastincolor.com, started by Denver-based The Reed fan Barry, who just wanted an easy way to find podcasts similar to the one she likes all in one place. She would also popularize the hashtags PodIn as well as hashtag PodsInColor for people to be able to find discussions about the podcasts that they liked on applications such as Twitter and Instagram. There are even conferences and meetups specifically dedicated to Black podcasters. We have the Afros and Audios Podcast Festival, which allows Black creators and Black engineers to get together and network, and more fun and loose events like Pod and Live NYC, which allows Black podcasters to get together, dance, have fun, and party. Now, are you wondering how and where you can listen to podcasts? Well, all you have to do is go to individual podcast websites or audio platforms, click on the proper link, press play, and enjoy. And there are many different audio platforms you can find podcasts on. They are on streaming services such as Apple iTunes, Tidal, Spotify, Google Play, as well as content-led platforms such as Stitcher or SoundCloud. And that concludes the presentation, This Decade in Blackness, presented and written by Sabri Downing in conjunction with the Career Training Institute, CTI, at Mercer County Community College, Trenton, New Jersey.